The ethos of rock and roll often embodies, among other things, rebellion, danger, and pushing boundaries. But some moments in rock history went far beyond the music itself. They shocked the world, changed laws, and left scars that never fully healed. From deadly disasters to courtroom battles that questioned the very soul of the genre, these controversies didn't just make headlines, they defined eras. Today we're counting down the top 10 rock band controversies that genuinely shocked the world. These aren't just rumors or tabloid fodder. These are verified, documented events that reached far beyond the music press and into the living rooms of mainstream America. Before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and drop a like if you're ready to dive into rock's darkest moments. Compiling a list like this isn't just about shock value. We used a rigorous scoring framework to determine what truly belongs here. Each controversy was scored out of 100 points across 6 critical categories. First, global media shock and visibility, worth 25 points. Did it break beyond the music magazines? Did it hit TV news, front pages, and trigger responses from governments or religious institutions? That's what separates a controversy from a genuine cultural earthquake. Second, cultural and industry impact, another 25 points. We're talking about whether it changed laws, censorship rules, venue policies, or fundamentally altered how society viewed rock music. Third, shock value relative to its era, 20 points. What was scandalous in 1966 is different from what shocked people in 2003. Context matters. Fourth, career consequences, 15 points. Did it result in arrests, bans, lawsuits, or breakups? Did it permanently damage careers or force the band to evolve? Fifth, longevity and historical memory, 10 points. Is it still referenced decades later in documentaries, books, and cultural discussions? And finally, verifiability and documentation, 5 points. We need court records, footage, official statements. No unproven myths or exaggerated folklore made the cut. Every controversy had to involve a rock band, be thoroughly documented, and reach mainstream public awareness. With that framework in mind, let's count down the top 10. Number 10, The Doors, Miami Incident. On March 1st, 1969, Jim Morrison took the stage at the Dinner Key Auditorium in Miami and gave one of the most infamous performances in rock history. Morrison was allegedly intoxicated, taunting the crowd, inciting chaos, and, depending on who you ask, either simulating or actually exposing himself on stage. The aftermath was immediate and brutal. Morrison was charged with indecent exposure and open profanity. The FBI got involved. Radio stations across the country banned The Doors. Concerts were canceled. The incident became a rallying point for those who saw rock music as a corrupting force on American youth. Morrison was convicted in 1970, though he died in Paris before serving any sentence. The case hung over The Doors like a shadow, and decades later, in 2010, Morrison was posthumously pardoned by Florida's governor. But the damage was done. The Miami incident represented the danger and unpredictability of rock's most charismatic frontman spiraling out of control on a public stage. Number 9, Nirvana. Kurt Cobain's death. On April 8, 1994, an electrician discovered Kurt Cobain's body at his Seattle home. The 27-year-old Nirvana frontman had apparently unalived himself 3 days earlier, leaving behind a note, a grieving widow, and millions of devastated fans around the world. Cobain's death was more than the loss of a musician. It felt like the end of an era. Grunge, the movement Nirvana had come to symbolize, was forever changed. The media coverage was relentless. Conspiracy theories emerged almost immediately and persist to this day. The cultural impact was staggering. Cobain became the poster child for the tortured artist, and his death sparked urgent conversations about mental health, addiction, and the pressures of fame. Vigils were held worldwide. Radio stations played Nirvana on repeat, and the music industry was forced to reckon with how it treated its most vulnerable stars. Kurt Cobain's death wasn't a scandal in the traditional sense, but it shocked the world in the deepest way possible by taking away one of rock's most important voices just as he was reaching his peak. Number 8, Metallica. Napster lawsuit. In the year 2000, Metallica did something that no major rock band had done before. They sued their own fans. Well, sort of. Metallica filed a lawsuit against Napster, the peer-to-peer file-sharing service that had become wildly popular among music lovers who wanted free access to virtually any song imaginable. Metallica discovered that their unreleased track, I Disappear, was circulating on Napster before it had even been officially released. Drummer Lars Ulrich became the face of the lawsuit, appearing before Congress and delivering a list of over 300,000 Napster users who had downloaded Metallica's music illegally. The backlash was swift and brutal. Fans called Metallica sellouts, hypocrites, and greedy millionaires. Protesters showed up at concerts. The band that had built its reputation on anti-establishment rebellion was now being painted as corporate enforcers. But here's the thing, Metallica won. Napster eventually shut down in 2001, and the lawsuit fundamentally changed the music industry. It sparked the conversation that led to iTunes, Spotify, and the streaming economy we know today. Love them or hate them for it, Metallica forced the industry to adapt to the digital age, and that controversy where fans felt betrayed and the band stood their ground remains one of the most polarizing moments in rock history. Number 7, Judas Priest, Subliminal Message Trial. In December 1985, two young men from Nevada, Ray Belknap and James Vance, attempted to self-delete after hours of drinking, smoking marijuana, and listening to Judas Priest's album Stained Class. Belknap passed away instantly from a self-inflicted firearm wound. Vance survived but suffered severe facial injuries and passed away 3 years later from complications. Their families blamed Judas Priest, claiming the band had embedded subliminal messages, specifically the phrase "do it" in their music that drove the teenagers to unalive themselves. In 1990, the case went to court in a trial that captivated the nation and became a referendum on whether rock music could literally kill. Judas Priest's defense was straightforward. There were no subliminal messages, and even if there were, the First Amendment protected their artistic expression. The trial featured expert testimony about backward masking, audio analysis, and the psychological impact of heavy metal. In the end, the judge ruled in favor of Judas Priest, finding no evidence that subliminal messages caused the incident. But the trial left a permanent mark. It intensified the satanic panic of the 1980s and fueled ongoing debates about music's influence on behavior. Judas Priest had been put on trial not just for their music, but for the very existence of heavy metal as an art form. And they walked away victorious, but not unscathed. Number 6, Guns N' Roses, riots, arrests, and implosions. Guns N' Roses in the early 90s was the most dangerous band on the planet, not because of their music, but because their live shows felt like powder kegs waiting to explode. And explode they did. The most infamous incident happened on July 2nd, 1991 at the Riverport Amphitheater in St. Louis. Axl Rose spotted a fan with a camera in the crowd. Back before smartphones, this was considered bootlegging and was greatly frowned upon by artists. Security wasn't doing their job to stop the man from bootlegging the show, so Axl took matters into his own hands. He dove into the audience, attacked the fan, then stormed off stage mid-set, shouting at the audience that he was going home. What followed was chaos. Fans rioted, destroying equipment, setting fires, and clashing with police. Dozens were injured. Axl was charged with inciting a riot and property damage. The incident became known as the Riverport Riot, and it cemented Guns N' Roses' reputation as rock's most volatile act. But St. Louis was just the most visible instance. Between 1991 and 1993, GNR shows were plagued by cancellations, delays, and onstage meltdowns. Axl's erratic behavior became legendary, and not in a good way. The band that had dominated rock was tearing itself apart in real time, and the whole world was watching. The fallout was massive. Original members left, tours were cut short, and Guns N' Roses went from being the biggest band in the world to a cautionary tale about fame, ego, and self-destruction. Number 5, Great White, Station Nightclub Fire. On February 20th, 2003, Great White took the stage at the Station nightclub in West Warwick, Rhode Island. It was a small venue packed with around 460 people. The band's tour manager set off pyrotechnics as part of their opening, a routine rock show effect, but the soundproofing foam on the walls and ceiling was highly flammable. Within seconds, the foam ignited. Within minutes, the entire club was consumed by fire. People rushed toward the exits, but the main door became a deadly bottleneck. The scene was pure horror. By the time firefighters brought the blaze under control, 100 people had lost their lives, and over 200 were injured. It remains the 4th deadliest nightclub fire in US history. The aftermath was devastating. Great White's tour manager, Daniel Bichele, pleaded guilty to 100 counts of involuntary manslaughter and served 4 years in prison. The station's owners were also convicted. Lawsuits followed, families were shattered, and the entire live music industry was forced to overhaul fire safety regulations. Great White never fully recovered. The band's name became synonymous with one of rock's greatest tragedies, and the station fire remains a painful reminder that safety can never be taken for granted, no matter how routine the show seems. Number 4, The Who, Cincinnati concert stampede. On December 3rd, 1979, The Who were set to perform at Cincinnati's Riverfront Coliseum. It was festival seating, first come, first served, no assigned spots. Thousands of fans crowded outside the venue hours before the doors opened, eager to claim the best positions near the stage. But when the doors finally opened, only a few entrances were accessible. The crowd surged forward in a chaotic crush. People were trampled, suffocated, and unable to escape the press of bodies. 11 concertgoers, ages 15 to 27, lost their lives in the stampede. The tragedy didn't stop the concert. The Who performed that night, unaware of what had happened outside. When they learned the truth afterward, the band was shattered. Pete Townsend later said the guilt haunted them for years. The Cincinnati stampede sparked nationwide outrage and led to the elimination of festival seating at most major venues across the United States. Cities passed laws, venue policies changed. The concert industry was forced to prioritize safety over profit. The Who carried the weight of Cincinnati for the rest of their career. They returned to the city in 1982 to perform a benefit for the victims' families. But nothing could undo the fact that 11 young people went to a rock concert and never came home. Number 3. Sex Pistols, Bill Grundy interview, and God Save the Queen. On December 1st, 1976, the Sex Pistols appeared on British television's Today Show, hosted by Bill Grundy. What happened next was a masterclass in punk chaos. Grundy, clearly condescending toward the band, goaded guitarist Steve Jones into saying something outrageous. Jones didn't disappoint. He unleashed a string of profanities on live television. The interview became a national scandal overnight. Newspapers exploded with outrage. The Daily Mirror's headline screamed, "The filth and the fury." The Sex Pistols were banned from venues across the UK. Their tour was decimated, but the controversy also made them the most talked about band in Britain. 6 months later, they released God Save the Queen during Queen Elizabeth II's Silver Jubilee celebrations. The song was a vicious attack on the monarchy and British society. The BBC banned it. Record stores refused to stock it, yet it climbed to number 2 on the charts. And many believe the chart was rigged to keep it from hitting number 1. The Sex Pistols didn't just shock Britain, they redefined what rock music could be. They proved that punk wasn't just a sound, it was an ideology, a middle finger to authority, and a cultural revolution. And they did it all in less than 2 years before imploding spectacularly. Number 2, the Beatles. More popular than Jesus comment. In March 1966, John Lennon gave an interview to British journalist Maureen Cleave. In it, he made an offhand comment, "We're more popular than Jesus now. I don't know which will go first, rock and roll or Christianity." In the UK, the comment barely registered, but when it was reprinted in the American teen magazine Datebook in July 1966, all hell broke loose. The reaction in the United States, especially in the Bible Belt, was explosive. Radio stations banned Beatles music. Preachers condemned them from pulpits. Fans organized public burnings of Beatles records and memorabilia. The Ku Klux Klan protested their concerts. Death threats poured in. The Beatles' 1966 American tour became a nightmare. They performed in half-empty arenas amid bomb threats and protests. John Lennon was forced to apologize repeatedly, though he maintained he'd been misunderstood. The controversy didn't destroy the Beatles, but it changed them. They stopped touring altogether after the 1966 tour, retreating to the studio to create some of their greatest albums. But the more popular than Jesus incident revealed just how powerful and how vulnerable the Beatles really were. One sentence had turned the biggest band in the world into public enemy number 1. Number 1, the Rolling Stones. Altamont free concert disaster. On December 6, 1969, the Rolling Stones organized a free concert at the Altamont Speedway in California. It was supposed to be the West Coast's answer to Woodstock, a celebration of peace, love, and rock music. Instead, it became the day the 1960s died. The Stones hired the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club to provide security in exchange for $500 worth of beer. It was a catastrophic decision. The Angels were violent, aggressive, and armed with pool cues and knives. As the day progressed, tensions escalated. Fights broke out. The Angels beat concertgoers who got too close to the stage. Then, during the Stones' performance of Under My Thumb, 18-year-old Meredith Hunter approached the stage with a firearm. A Hells Angel named Alan Passaro unalived him with a knife in full view of the crowd. The incident was captured on film by documentary crews. Hunter's demise was not the only tragedy that day. 3 other people lost their lives, 2 in a hit-and-run accident and 1 by drowning in an irrigation canal. Dozens more were injured. The concert descended into chaos, violence, and horror. Altamont shattered the utopian dream of the counterculture. The optimism of Woodstock was replaced by the brutal reality of Altamont. The Rolling Stones, who had cultivated an image of danger and rebellion, were now associated with actual death. The footage of Meredith Hunter's demise was used in the documentary Gimme Shelter, ensuring that Altamont would never be forgotten. Lawsuits followed. The cultural conversation shifted, and rock music's darkest hour became its most infamous controversy. Altamont wasn't just a concert gone wrong, it was a symbol, a violent, tragic end to an era that had promised so much positive hope. Before we wrap up, let's acknowledge some of the controversies that didn't quite crack the top 10, but absolutely should be mentioned. Motley Crue, Vince Neil manslaughter case. In December 1984, Vince Neil was driving drunk when he crashed his car, killing Hanoi Rocks drummer Nicholas Razzle Dingley and seriously injuring 2 others. Neil served just 30 days in jail and paid a hefty fine, but the incident haunted Motley Crue and became a cautionary tale about rock excess. Led Zeppelin, plagiarism accusations. For decades, Led Zeppelin has faced claims that they lifted riffs, lyrics, and entire song structures from blues artists without proper credit. The most famous case involved Stairway to Heaven, which was accused of borrowing from Spirit's Taurus. The lawsuit went to trial in 2016, and Zeppelin won, but the accusations have never fully gone away. Rage Against the Machine, New York Stock Exchange shutdown. In 2000, while filming the music video for Sleep Now in the Fire, Rage staged a guerrilla performance on the steps of the New York Stock Exchange. The stunt forced the New York Stock Exchange to shut down temporarily, and the band was escorted away by police. It was classic Rage, confrontational, political, and impossible to ignore. Black Sabbath, the Satanic Panic. In the 1980s, Black Sabbath's dark imagery, occult themes, and heavy sound made them the #1 enemy of religious groups who believed rock music was a tool of the devil. They were banned, protested, and demonized. Ironically, for a band whose lyrics often warned against evil rather than celebrating it. Pearl Jam, battle against Ticketmaster. In 1994, Pearl Jam took on Ticketmaster's monopoly, accusing the company of price gouging and anti-competitive practices. They testified before Congress and attempted to tour without using Ticketmaster venues. They ultimately lost the battle, but their fight brought attention to issues that still plague the live music industry today. These controversies didn't just shock the world, they changed it. From deadly tragedies to cultural revolutions, from courtroom battles to riots in the streets, these moments defined what it meant to push boundaries in rock and roll. If you enjoyed this countdown, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let us know in the comments. What's the most shocking rock controversy you think we missed? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.